All right, Vanessa, we are live. How are you?
Good.
This is Ching Juhl. I am in New York City. And Vanessa, where are you?
Los Angeles.
Yeah, Los Angeles. Great. The city of filmmaking and everything. I'd like to introduce my guest today is Vanessa Morbeck, who is a personality and talented author, and she's a motivational speaker. And I'm going to read a short biography, which you can find in the description of this episode. Okay, so Vanessa Morbeck is a veteran and an author of Soldier's Heart, Non-Combat Wounds of PTSD. Through her personal journal, she hopes the book reaches the massive to help other and give people an idea of what goes on in the lives of those who have this syndrome, or for those who have been through sexual assault in the military. She specializes in motivational speaking on all forms of PTSD, suicide and military sexual trauma survivors, domestic violence, law enforcement tactics, and community oriented policing and ethics. A business owner, Vanessa Morback is also pursuing acting and modeling. So please check her TikTok, Instagram, and please donate to her Cash App. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, Vanessa. So,
Thank you.
yeah, can you tell us just how do you remember how you and I met?
We met in Clubhouse, which is a really awesome app that you can go to, specifically Los Angeles connections, and it is for anyone. It's free. I really like it. I've made a lot of connections as I am transitioning from military law enforcement career to acting and modeling, and that's a very great place for anyone who just wants to network in that type of community. And I had the privilege of meeting Ching over here. She's a really great person, and I'm really grateful and for this opportunity. Without that app, then I wouldn't even have this opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so Clubhouse really connects us many people in many different levels, and I met many great filmmakers, artists, musicians, and then meeting people like you, which also is pursuing in entertainment business now and has incredible rich personal stories to tell. So tell me first, where you from and your background before you become a military person.
I was born in Nuremberg, Germany, as a military dependent. My father was on active duty, and I grew up in Wisconsin, so I'm a Midwest person. And then from there, I joined the military.
Wow, wow. So by the way, these days, when you join military, after during the military, do you guys have opportunity to like further your education, or you do it afterwards?
You can do it while on active duty. You have to be on active duty for a certain amount of time frame before you can use what's called tuition assistance. But yes, while you are on active duty, even after when you pass basic training, you then have the option to continue educating courses off duty.
I see. So, so tell us, you are a motivational speaker now, and you talk about tell us the book is The Soldier's Heart, please.
Soldier's Heart, Non-Combat Wounds is a free book that I wrote to help share my story last year after I survived suicide. So, trigger warning, anybody watching. But I'm a survivor of suicide as of last year. I just hit 18 months this month. I mean, 18 months ago, around this time frame, I would have maintain being deceased if I wasn't resuscitated and saved with life saving measures in order to make sure that I was kept alive in that moment. And so after that, and having that near death experience or that death experience myself, I woke up 3 days later out of a coma, and I'm like, well, why don't I just tell my story? And I ended up writing that book, which has been an accumulation of things I've already had saved in my life, like documents, police reports, and all that stuff, and then having to put that together and kind of write it as a series in order to help people. I guess I wanted to show the impact of my life and how it affected me, and then taking that into law enforcement, which is my secondary career path, and then being able to help people with that as a survivor.
And where can people find the book?
It's free on Amazon, so if they
Mm.
Google Vanessa Morbeck or they look up Soldier's Heart and Vanessa Morbeck, they can find it on Amazon for free.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And so tell us about how you decided to, like, what triggers you to wanting to be a military. When you say military, like in what kind of military?
Originally, I tried to join the Navy,
Mhm.
but I was assaulted by the recruiter, and so I was 19, not even 20 years old yet, and I was in California at the time, Alhambra, San Gabriel to be specific. After I graduated high school, right away, I moved out here to go to college temporarily, and I'm like, well, let me join the military, let me join the Navy, and so I tried to join the Navy, and then I was assaulted by the recruiter. Um, in his office that he took me back to. And then I told the Army about it, and I told the Navy, and I reported it to my college police at the time, my campus law enforcement. They didn't really do too much about it. By that time, he was already moved out of that office to a
Mhm.
different office, and it really never went anywhere. And then I joined the Army, and I was like, well, you know, the Navy did this. Let me try a different branch. And then I
Mhm.
ended up joining the Army, which I'm a third generation veteran too. My grandfather, my father, and myself, all U.S. Army, and my
Oh,
stepfather.
oh, I see. So you're coming from a family as a service. Yeah. God bless you. So were you tell us a little bit, like when you were assaulted already, when you were just in the process of being a military person by a recruiter. um did you did you tell anyone, or like how that impact your decision to go into the military, or were you really scared?
I'm a child of like I had a childhood of minor sexual abuse incidences. So, and I had an abusive parent. My mother was very toxic to me,
Mhm.
and so that was kind of normalized in my childhood.
Mhm.
So growing up and trying to join the military or having sexual abuse after the age of 18 in the adult world didn't
Mhm.
really connect to me as something that was wrong at
Mhm.
the time.
Mhm.
Hindsight 2020 now it does. Obviously,
Mhm.
I'm here, but at that time that was what I was normalized to as a child. So I didn't know that it was illegal or wrong. So I
Mhm.
didn't really have any good judgment. But I went to East Los Angeles Community College for a little bit,
Mhm.
and I told my Chinese professor actually because and my public speaking professor. I said, "Hey, this happened to me the other day. What do I do about it? What is this?" And so they encouraged me to report.
Wow, wow. That's traumatizing also. And now, so tell us a little bit about when you become a soldier, I would say, right? And how the incident happens not just once, right? And so as a person experience that, like, how do you advise people who are applying for military, or people who are already in military? Like, what is your advice to people, to women soldiers?
First off, being prior law enforcement as well, sexual abuse or sexual violence is a not just a gender orientated thing. It's men and women. Anybody can be a victim or survivor of sexual abuse. A lot of times it is the men. There's a higher rate of male sexual abuse in the military by straight people for power and control versus women. There's not, we're not equalized yet as far as the numbers. So with that, my advice would just be to be aware of your surroundings, especially if you are young and you're 19, 20 years old with no background other than your family and school. Study those things, because if you go into like this, if you're in the Army specifically, you go through the sexual harassment assault response prevention program, or like a PowerPoint, but they don't really give you good mechanisms to knowing what sexual abuse looks like. It's just a PowerPoint with some videos and saying don't do this and don't do that. It's not really legitimate to how sexual abuse actually is, and it's more victimized and stigmatized, at least when I was on active duty. um, and they do a lot of victim blaming and victim shaming. So my advice to anybody trying to join the military or just living life in general is really be aware of your surroundings. And you might not think it can happen to you, and it happened to me 15 times on active duty in 4 years, from basic training, advanced individual training, Korea 5 times, and then here in Fort Lewis, well, multiple times as well, up until when I got discharged. And it's just really difficult to just tell anyone with any profession that you're not going to be subjected to sexual abuse or violence. But you got to pay attention to your surroundings, in any type of situation. Don't take drinks from strangers that you don't know what's in it. Don't do a lot of different things that you think could be just, I don't know how to explain it.
So
be
yeah, so how
it's
is yeah, so yeah, very helpful. So how is the punishment when you report to the military? And like is that system is very incomplete, very crooked, or is it they are on top of these cases?
100% they're not. If you there was a documentary by Michael Kirby, I believe, produced, called The Invisible War, and it was published in 2012. Lady Gaga then made one for high school and college students called it. It was, there's another subsequent one to that dealing with sexual abuse in colleges, but the first documentary was about sexual violence in the military across all branches and when it kind of started. And if I would have seen that in 2012, going in 2012, I saw it in 2015 when
Mm,
all these incidents already happened to me. That
mm,
if I would have had educational knowledge and seen
right.
real life statistics and how those people reported it and what happened to them, it would have changed my outlook and probably saved my career going through that on my own, on active duty in the military. And you have to be educated with that stuff, with anything, whether it's documentaries, whether it's statistics, whether it's doing that educational research on your own and what it looks like and how many other people have been through it, especially in the US military. They don't have a justice system that's akin to the civilian one out here. They really don't. um, in fact, it's probably fostered more because we're such a masculine mentality driven military. The women are bred to think like the men and act like the men, and we ended up adopting that behavior and that mentality, and it's heavily masculine. Like it's hard even now trying to accept being a woman myself because of the sexual abuse one, but also because I'm so like tough and buff and machismo, and going into the military at 19 years old with no life experience outside of high school and my family, I didn't know how to act. So even trying to adjust here, a lot of the men in the civilian culture find me very rough and rugged and angry all the time, or having RBF, or intimidating. I get that I'm very intimidating all the time, and because of the way the military had trained me to be a soldier.
Yeah,
It's a challenge in itself, especially dating.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we'll talk about the cute guy later. God bless you. So, can you share a little bit with us about your suicide attempt? Is it because the rape issue, or is it because you you suffer from depression?
I would say it's a mixture between depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Last year, April 19th, 2020 timeframe, in March, right before COVID hit really bad and they shut down institutions, I had went on a list for Seattle Veterans Hospital, and I waited like 8 months to get into this program called the domiciliary, where they would let you stay in the military hospital and kind of work on your mental health treatment. And COVID hit, and I was doing military security, well, law enforcement security type a job at the time frame. And I said, let me go to this program. Well, they gave me a phone call around March timeframe and said, we're going to shut down the program because COVID hit and we're not accepting anybody into the program. And I had waited, 8 months to get into this program to try to work on my mental health, which was important to me at the time. And it still is. And they said, Officer Morbeck, we can't accept anybody into the program. And I said, well, I've been waiting a long time. I don't want to take my own life. And I had never had suicidal behaviors to where I would willingly hurt myself. They had always just been thoughts. And those thoughts started with my second to third sexual assault on active duty by a Korean soldier in South Korea, like December 1st, 2012. And I joined in April 2012. So not even from April to December, I had minor sexual incidences. And then December 1st, 2012 was that legitimate rape by that Korean American soldier. Well, Korean soldier, so Katusa. But going back to where you were asking, the suicide thing, at that time, the suicide stuff started to populate as thoughts in my mind for the first time in my life. In April 19, 2020, I had went into the hospital around that time frame for about 3 weeks to kind of work on my mental health. I checked myself involuntarily to work on that. And the VA hospital in Seattle sent me to a civilian psychiatric care unit called Well Found Behavioral Health. And they over medicated me without looking at my medical record on 6 different types of psychiatric pills and said, Officer Morbeck, if you don't take these, we're not going to release you from the hospital and you're going to have to stay here for a month or two. I said, well, I really want to get back to work. And it says like I am allergic to like Prozac or any type of antidepressant medication. And so they over medicated me on 6 different types of pills that made me psychologically like allergic to them. And the response to that psychological reaction after they had discharged me was to overdose on them. And I lost my life. I overdosed on 22,200 milligrams of psychiatric pills and a bottle of Korean vodka. And within 15 minutes, with my friend there, I did it in front of him, unbeknownst to both of us, not thinking what I was doing. And I said, hey, man, get me to the ER. I just took all 6 bottles of these pills. And within 15 minutes of getting to the ER, I blacked out and it caused respiratory failure.
Wow. So, and then how did they pump your stomach or something? Like,
I
did you
haven't
go?
really read the legitimate reports of
Mm,
what they did to save my life in that
yeah,
moment.
yeah.
Um, but when I woke up 3 days later with a tube down my throat in intensive care unit
Mm,
on it, so I had the breathing way air tube called
mm,
intubation,
yeah.
life support on a whole bunch of IVs, machines, fluids, and I was in my own induced comatose, but they had induced me to help my breathing
Mm.
for about 3 days, 2 to 3 days.
So the attempt of suicide, is it because you feel hopelessly, or do you wanted to protest, or do you just what do you remember? What was your motivation?
I had being a sexual assault survivor, sometimes your sexual level can be too much or like
Mm,
hyper promiscuity.
yeah.
Like you want to have too much sex with multiple different people, or you don't want to have sex at all. There's no real in between. It's
Uh,
either one extreme or the other.
uh-huh.
And for me, I was too sexual, hypersexual.
I see.
And so I had met a veteran that was in that unit that we had hooked up together. after we got out of the unit, like a couple weeks later or something. And then in that moment of that person being allergic to that medication and then that person doing that act to me triggered me
Mm,
internally without me thinking. So both of those things together caused that
mm.
overdose.
Oh, I see. Wow. So,
So I'd say the sexual abuse in the military is the main overarching stem as to why any of these side effects have happened.
I see, I see. So, what makes you now? Do you feel like you will never hurt yourselves again? And are you, do you have like a help, like a therapy or medication or any help do you get?
I've been through therapy for over since 2015, pretty much till now. So after I gave birth to my daughter, or right before, I went into treatment for more advanced, and I didn't get diagnosed with PTSD from sexual abuse in the military till about 2000 October of 2015.
Mm,
I had my daughter in January of 2015, and so um, I've been through different treatments that they say work for post traumatic stress disorder or mental health medications. Sometimes seven, six medications at one time for no apparent reason at all, because the military likes to over medicate people to get them to cope with their feelings. um, CBT or dialectical behavioral therapy, psychotherapy, which is talk therapy, the traditional one where you're talking to a psychologist, psychiatrist. And I was heavily medicated for insomnia, medicated because I couldn't sleep, medicated because was having flashbacks, or because I was too agitated and hypervigilant. Most of the common symptoms you have with any type of anxiety or post traumatic stress type disorder from a traumatic situation. And with that being said, I don't personally take medications anymore now. That suicide or overdose incident made me realize that my body could heal itself if I had enough faith spiritually, and if I did things to like eat the proper food, proper workout routine, just self care and self love, and accepting that and integrating that within myself. So that type of stuff, and TikTok, you know, seeing other people going through that in peer to peer support. Like I really like TikTok. Like I don't use it as like watching funny videos. I use it as a peer to peer support app to talk to other police officers, to talk to other veterans, to talk to other abuse survivors. And we kind of all have a group randomly on our algorithm and our feeds where you can just see other survivors going through these things in each of my different areas of professions and what I do, and just come together and talk. Here in Los Angeles, there's a female veteran community that you do like a Zoom meeting every other Wednesday, or even Clubhouse too. All these different groups popping up to help with sexual abuse or trauma in the military and the things that we struggle with to reintegrate when we're off active duty status and trying to find a normal job. A lot of us go through anger issues. We're told to keep our emotions to ourselves and, you know, have an off switch, and we might be scared to shoot that person in front of us or, you know, pull up our weapon, so to speak, but we have to remain calm in that. So to tell to somebody to bypass their own fear response in order to protect yourself or somebody else in that moment, um later on, if you don't take care of it and you don't let your body process those emotions when you're told to do one thing and versus the other, really creates a disconnect in your body and your mind because of having to force yourself to remain calm in a situation where you normally would fear, as in the military and being a first responder. So, you know, that's one of the main reasons that a lot of us have anger issues getting out, because we don't know when to turn that switch off. You're doing this for like 30 days to 4 years, 10, 20 years at a time. And when you get out, you don't have someone telling you to turn it off or turn it on or keep that calmness. And it creates a barrier to trying to reintegrate back into normal society for sure.
wow, it's amazing. So, in your doc, I see your doc. You give speeches to people. Do you where usually typical you give the motivational speech? Is it to army, or is it to military, or is to some other entity?
I started public speaking right away in 2016, 17. Actually, when I produced that short film, a lot of colleges saw that short film and started using it for their psychology class. And right after I temporarily got off federal law enforcement, I worked at the local college as like campus safety. And I walked into their room as security or campus safety, and I saw my picture with that video response there, like on a bulletin board. I said, "Where did you guys get this from? Like, do you guys know who this is? Like, this is me. I produced this."
Mm,
And it was weird. So then I started getting a lot of different offers over the years to like come talk to colleges for like their psychology class or criminal justice class and all these different films. So sporadically over the years, I'll go do live events where people ask me to get on stage and share my story and speak. Some police agencies, domestic violence agencies, the military now with Zoom meetings and talking to their, I mean, it can be anybody who asks me, and I don't get paid to do any of that. I
mm,
just do it to help share my story. You know, in the future, I want to do it professionally, but
mm.
this last couple years, it's just been sharing it to see what type of impact it makes indirectly to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, that film is really great. I said I hesitate to play it. I think I'm gonna play it now because it's so good, and it just I will get a warning from YouTube says music copyright sort of a alert, but let's see. Let me do this. Okay, I'm gonna share. This is a 2 minute, less than 3 minute of a video. So tell us one more time. How did you produce this video while I'm getting it
There's
out?
a film workshop called I Was There, right? And this is 3 days before I got off active duty the first time. And I had just been sexually assaulted for the 15th time by an army lieutenant. He ended up becoming a captain. And right from taking the sexual assault examination kit, not even 12 hours later, they said, "Hey, can you come to this class?" You signed up for it. And I ended up producing this video immediately after. I went from the hospital bed to this film workshop and helped produce this short film.
Wow, that's wonderful. When you can do so many different things, this is just amazing. One example. All right, so we're gonna watch this 2 minute 47 work. It's called Survivor. Yeah, that was really powerful. Great job. Great job.
You know
So
what?
yeah,
One the once you produce that, you got to sit in the auditorium and watch it on like a movie screen.
yeah.
And one of the soldiers in there said, made a really disrespectful comment and said, "I would have raped you too," after watching that.
Oh no, that's terrible. That's terrible.
I was so
Um,
mad.
yeah, but
So what the hell?
you're yeah you're good. You're good in terms of as a main character. Now I'm just curious about Revis. Hi, Revolution. Hi, how are you? We have some audience here.
Hi, audience.
Yeah, thank you so much. Revolution has a very nice podcast, and yeah, he's very dynamic and a lot of fun. And Peter, thank you, Peter. My young gun is here, and also Nassim, who's I think from where did Nassim come from? From like maybe Europe somewhere. But anyway, so I'm curious. When you did this film, it's a project from a film workshop, right? Do you
Yeah.
have to write a script? Do you do as a script, and do you so like who is the cinematographer? Like, did he use a real camera or a cell phone to shoot that?
They did real cameras.
Okay.
They have you kind of teach you like it's a 4 day class where they teach you how to do a storyboard. You kind of write some scenes out. You start from scratch and you do every single layout, and then you have to get the layout approved,
Mm,
find actors, which it was a group method. So I think it was a group of like 3 or 4 people in
mhm,
one group, like
mm.
4 or 5. I think there's 8 films that were produced that day, short films. um, that class, there was 8 of them of all different measurements. Mine was the only one about sexual assault in the military.
Mm.
And the sergeant in there, uh, if you look closely, the patch that he was wearing was the same unit that I was sexually assaulted in Fort Lewis, and we didn't know that at the time. So there's a lot of like subconscious things or
Mm.
subliminal things in that short film that most people won't recognize unless you're actually the people directing and acting in it. Because um and we just came up with a storyboard
Mm.
as a group together, just me and him and another actor that was sick and couldn't make it that day.
Mm.
We had to film it in that building, which is the Stone Education Center in Fort Lewis, Washington, on Main Post Lewis, where they do a lot of the college classes and things like that. Like you were asking earlier about tuition assistance,
Mm.
that was just right outside the building at the smoke pit, just trying to figure out how to navigate it. And they wouldn't let me get as graphic and sexually explicit as I wanted to,
Mm.
but you know, I have to keep it like PG but still serious at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, and I was wondering,
Only Dante.
yeah, I was wondering. Oh, did I ask you that already? Like these people who uh assaulted you, did they get punished?
No, maybe some of them got kicked out. Maybe some of them got written. In the military, we have multiple different forms of punishment, and a lot of them come in form of like counseling formats, or per the Uniform Code of Military Justice is what our military law is called. You can get written statements that make your record look bad for when you go to a different unit or when you try to get promoted. And so a lot of those people got similar actions like that, or no punishment at all, or some of them got kicked out. Some of them, I mean, out of 15 different people, the second assault was a multi person assault in was a gang rape in where they had filmed it and recorded it and spread it around the unit after the fact, right before I went to Korea. That was still in the second phase of training, from basic training to our educational school that we go to for whatever our primary job is going to be outside of infantry. So with two assaults back to back, the second one I didn't really ever know about till like 4 or 5 years later. So my only actual incidences of first being assaulted was the one in basic training, the recruiter, and then the one in the starting the stuff in Korea.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about, you're very talented. You speak Chinese and you speak Japanese
In
and you
Korean,
speak, yeah, Korean.
every day.
It's amazing. So how was overall the experience in Korea when you
I
were,
love Korea.
yeah, the
It's
food
my
is good.
favorite place. I want to retire there. Like the food is good.
Yeah,
The people, for the most part, are respectful.
yeah.
It's I didn't get to do much exploring because we have a curfew, and there's certain days we could get locked in the base or not. So I think my second time around of moving there, and I think I want to be able to explore and go to like Jeju Island and do all the fun things I couldn't do while being stationed there on active duty. So
What is a typical day in Korea for you?
in the
Typical.
military,
Yeah.
you get a couple choices of bases. You don't really get to choose. They send you where they need you to go. But there used to be Yongsong, which was in the heart of Seoul, but they moved that down south, I think, to Pyeongtaek. So there's multiple bases. There's Army, I believe, for the most part, and Air Force, and then other deviations of that. But those are the main two branches that we have in South Korea, and we've been there since 1945, when the Koreans got liberated from the Japanese. So we've been there before World War II, and it's pretty interesting to see that transition. And so Korea is set up with an armistice, a treaty plan that's saying North and South Korea can't attack each other, and if they do, then a war would start again. And so from time to time, when I was stationed there, I was stationed about 10 miles south of the demilitarized zone, which is the treaty line of where South and North Korea break and where they can't fire against each other. It's called the demilitarized zone. And my base was maybe like 10 miles south of that. So right near that border, we had to actually get hazardous duty pay in order to work up there in case we started a war, in case we had went to war with them. And around the time I was stationed there, Kim Jong Un, or whoever the current president was at the time in the North Korean side had sunk one of the or attacked one of the Japanese ships in the Japanese sea area over there. And it was really hostile. We had to gear up and get ready to prepare to go to war. We had to activate the tanks, even though we normally had them anyway. We had to do drills in order to prepare to fight North Korea again. And it was something I would have sacrificed and done over and over again. And it was a pretty hostile climate over there at that time because 2012, 13, we could have gone to war again. I don't think the media really covered it in much over there, but in that time frame, we almost broke out into a war again. And so
Wow.
it wasn't a lot of it was shut down because of that incident with North Korea and Japan.
Hmm. Wow, that's intense. So, I know you're coming from a family of a veteran, and so if hypothetically speaking, if there was no abuse in military, would you kept, would you stayed in and serve for the country?
I would have. I was illegally kicked out. They tried to do whatever they could to kick me out.
Oh,
They tried to chapter me, which is basically them saying like you're not fit for military service. We're going to kick you out early and find a way to discharge you with no benefits. It's basically what a chapter is in
oh,
short. And so after reporting my assault in Korea, the first one, so the third incident out of 15, they forced me to be on suicide watch when I was never suicidal in South Korea. I had to stay on that one base for a year with all five of my rapists, the two Korean ones and the three American soldiers, and I couldn't leave. And my sergeant said either you can commit suicide or you can run away and go AWOL and get caught and still have to serve a longer sentence in the military. So
yo,
they wouldn't give me the option to move. They said they locked me in we call it a battalion. So basically, I work for battalion or brigade. And anybody in the military or not, we have different levels of who we can go work for. So it starts out as like a squad, right? 4 or 5 people. And then the more service members you add, it can be a company, which is like 50 to 80 service members. And then each unit kind of progresses that way. So at a battalion level, you have 4 or 5 different companies, or no, you don't. Yeah, you do. You have a couple companies of like 80 people each in that company, and then it kind of gets bigger and bigger from there. Is the way you can explain it. And
mm,
so I work for battalion and brigade as their human resources specialist, operation person for primarily my job. So I had to work with a lot of different service members, with a lot of people that outranked me of all different levels. And a normal private at that level would not normally have interaction with higher up people depending on their job. I'm talking about they're probably minimal. We joke about this a lot in the military, but they would probably talk to like sergeants, like people 2 or 3 ranks above them, maybe the commander if they saw them, depending on the job or if they got in trouble. But being a human resources specialist with a secret clearance and having to deal with service members' social security numbers, their life insurance, awards, promotion packets, anything that would get them to advance in that career from a logistical administrative level or clerical level is what I did. So I had to talk to um, people 10, maybe even 9 ranks above me, 10 ranks above me all the time. And so it made it easier to talk to them on a human level, which also made it more perceptible because I was naive and didn't have much street common sense outside of growing up as to like what was being too friendly and what was not,
mm,
but still maintaining that respect and military bearing. And that made it difficult as a young female, 19, 20 years old, with my first job, my first serious job, and it being the military and not knowing what a predator looks like and what they don't and how to interact with people.
yeah, yeah. Oh, by the way, I was just thinking, do you have a dual citizenship? You were born in
I
Germany.
used to have dual citizenship for
Can you get it
18
back?
years and nobody told me. And when I joined the army, they're like, you know, you have dual citizenship in Germany. I said, what? What's dual citizenship? They're like, well, you have to renounce one of your citizenships in order to join the military.
Oh
So
no.
for like 18 years, I'm like, I could have been to Germany this whole time. For real, I was so mad. I wonder if I can get it back. That's a question I do have.
Yeah, you could if you show your birth certificate.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be so
definitely. I would
cool.
want that back. I want to go visit where I was
Yeah,
born.
yeah, that would be so cool. I think I like German. I really I maybe I'm biased because my husband's father was is a German.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's born in Hamburg area. So
I was
my
born in
last.
Nuremberg, where Hitler had his trials. For real.
Important,
Yes.
important. Yeah, important place. So yeah.
On Thanksgiving. I
Wow.
was born on Thanksgiving, November 28th, 1991. I'm a Sagittarius. Legitimately
Oh,
on Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving that year.
wow, wow. You're a
Uh,
90s baby. Oh my
yes.
God. You can be my kid. So
I need an adopted mother, sure thing.
so you know what? I didn't
Chinese
tell
moms
you.
are the best.
I don't think you know that yeah, I was in Chinese military actually.
Ooh, thank you for your service.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I wasn't. I didn't have a gun or anything. I was in. I played the violin, so I was in the orchestra.
Oh, the
So
band.
yeah, yeah. I was in the band. Yeah. So,
That's dope.
but dope. Yeah. But still, every day I remember we
Just
have
all
to
like,
get up 6 a.m. in the morning, and to either Monday, Wednesday, Friday we have to clean the yard. Sweep the yard, and then the other 7 days, 4 days we have to have meeting. Oh, run around the
physical
campus.
fitness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
around the campus. Yeah. So anyway, so it was a very strict life. I was only 17, so it was very
Ooh,
interesting.
they make
Yeah,
you join the
that's
military at
uh,
17 over
uh,
there?
yeah,
Ooh.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
the youngest age you can join in the Chinese
I
military?
think for orchestra, for
Or
musicians,
orchestra?
for art troupe, it doesn't have I don't think has an age limit. Even some dancers, even younger, yeah, you can
Wow.
join. So yeah. Hi, Dennis. Dennis is in the audience. Dennis is Trump for Yan podcast host. I just interviewed him last Saturday, so you can check that
Oh, I saw
episode.
some of that actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
he's
watch some of it.
really
Hi, Dennis.
amazing. Yeah, and I'm gonna interview Rev on 17th of
Good.
this month. So yeah, let's back to you. So now, can you talk just briefly about PTSD? Because it's a subject I don't usually have much knowledge about it, and how do you overcome that? And what are the symptoms?
A lot of people ask about my tattoos, and it relates to PTSD. So every time I was raped in the military, which is 15 times on active duty, maybe more for some of the instances I don't remember, I got a different tattoo every time. So the biggest one being my dragon on my back, which was the first one indicative of the sexual assault by the Korean soldier. And that was 6 hours of a tattoo for $600 on leave when one of my family members died going back home while I was stationed in Korea. And I said, dude, just give me whatever you have on the wall that you haven't given to somebody. And that ended up being my second tattoo, which is I have a huge mural of a dragon, a Japanese dragon on my back, which stands for strength and power and, divinity and a lot of wisdom. And so a lot of times, especially with people with art on their body, you can't tell that somebody has been through so much trauma by just looking at them, or unless they don't process it enough to where it's going to debilitate them for the rest of their life. Like you see the homelessness on the street where their mental health is so bad to where they can't comprehend what they're doing. But I had to study what PTSD was. I didn't know what PTSD was until 2015 when I was diagnosed. I went from 2011, 12 on active duty to 2015, knowing that I have similar symptoms, but that I wasn't okay after all of these sexual assaults, to immediately giving birth to my child. And like, where are all these other symptoms coming from? Why does my mental health feel this way? Are these symptoms getting worse? And so I had to legitimately study PTSD and figure out what the symptoms are. Hypervigilance, getting angry and irritable at things. I mean, there's so many different symptoms to what it looks like, but if it's just unprocessed trauma and something, anything can be trauma to anyone. You can I mean, there's extreme versions of it, and there's very minuscule ones, like getting into a vehicle accident and you feeling unsafe enough in your body to where something makes you feel like your life is at danger to where you start having symptomologies from that, like a vehicle collision or witnessing somebody die in front of you, natural disaster. For me, it was mostly sexual abuse in the military. And so my body went into flight, fight, or freeze response. And people often ask me, why didn't I fight back? Or how did you let this happen so many times? And I'm like, look, my body froze. I went into freeze mode. And freeze mode means your body puts itself into a catatonic paralysis to where you can't move. You can move your eyes, you can't speak, you can't do nothing. Your body completely shuts itself down for the safety of something trying to kill you. Like in the Stone Age day when you saw a tiger and your body just freezes. Well, in the type of sexual abuse situation in which I was, my body shut itself down so where that person could only do what it is that they did, that Korean soldier, those two Korean soldiers, and just take advantage of that situation. So, two, my first sexual assault in Korea, don't laugh at me. I'm laughing to myself because it's funny to me, was a Korean like karaoke place in Uijeongbu where it's like a PC bong unit where it had multiple different things, and it seemed a little off key because it was just me and him, and he invited me out, and I said, let's go to a normal movie theater, and he's like, no, let's go to this PC bong place instead. I said, why can't we just go to the movie theater? And I just hit my 20th birthday, my 21st birthday to be exact, in Korea. um and we were watching the movie Act of Valor. I'm American and I'm a soldier. Let's watch that movie. It came out, and so he had sexually assaulted me for that movie. That's like a 2-hour movie. So by the time the movie started and by the time it went all the way down to where it hit like 30 minutes left of the movie, I was stuck frozen in a paralysis with this person doing these vile things to me and then acting like everything was okay afterwards. But that's one experience of how post traumatic stress can affect your body. That person could have killed me. When I think about it now, I was scared to put my clothes on because I was halfway naked to run out of that like Korean karaoke room and be like, help me, help me. I didn't speak enough Korean back then. I learned most of it after the fact. And, just those basic things in a foreign country as a soldier with someone native and local to that country assaulting you, to be like, help, stop, I need help. And they were another military member too, even though they were part of their military.
Wow, that's so traumatic, and also kind of a lesson for some other young soldiers, with no experience of dealing in foreign countries, right? Or just the dating situation, right? That's not necessarily a military person. People can be assaulted in these kind of situation, and the intruders can take an advantage to women who are young or who are innocent, or in all kind of situation, right? Film theater or karaoke bars.
Anywhere and everything. Any
Yeah.
type that situation can happen to all humans at any time in any moment at some point in their lifetime. Whether
Mhm.
it seems minuscule as like inappropriate contact and flirting, that's
Mhm.
over excessive, that's unwarranted and wanted, to full blown rape and sexual assault. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everything in between that we don't talk about, that is
Right.
parallel to just feeling uncomfortable with making advances at somebody that doesn't want it, man
Right.
or woman or child.
Right. Right. So, in terms of PTSD, do physicians or psychiatrists diagnose such label to people, and what are these patients getting helped in what way?
I don't think they diagnose it enough. The military for a long time tried to say I have an adjustment disorder or anxiety disorder, not other than specified, is what they ruled it out as, and tried to do all these things to say it wasn't PTSD
Mm.
for most of my military contract, including up until even, last year, trying to fight for benefits for 3 years straight to increase it to its actual diagnosis of PTSD, whether it's by a military doctor at the VA or on active duty or civilian mental health. I think that people who go to school for these type of things to be psychologists, psychiatrists, a lot of them don't have personal experiences with that disorder that they're trying to diagnose themselves, other than watching other people go through it and learning it in the school books.
Mm,
And it makes it difficult because you're dealing with someone's mentality and you're dealing with somebody who's overcome these symptoms over and over. So I think just in the mental health community in general, a lot of these things are underdiagnosed. You could have depression and PTSD at the same time, and they'll use a fancy word called comorbid, and which means you have two different mental health diagnoses. When maybe all you just needed to do was talk to somebody, or change up your diet routine, or change up your food routine, and kind of work on that holistic health of it. Because our bodies are designed to heal themselves. You know, before
yeah.
they invented medicine, our bodies took care of most of itself on its own, regulating itself, regulating these emotions. We
Mm-hmm.
might have not known what it's called back then. We might have not had a system where people just try to put pills down your throat. But a lot of these things in the field of eras kind of recalibrated themselves out
Mm,
by just allowing your body to go through those emotions and processing them, and letting your body kind of just do its own thing without medication and a million things of talk therapy. I'm not for it or against it,
mm,
but now that I have a better understanding of myself
mm.
and being off medication for about 18 months and
Wow.
just changing my routine of what I eat and physical fitness and hobbies and helping people with what I've been through,
Hmm.
I'm a lot more healthier than going to a doctor every single day saying, I want to do this, because half of them do it for a paycheck and don't care. A lot of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And you have a very long list of things you want to do, like being a detective
That
and
was
also,
before.
huh? What?
That was when I was active on Seattle Police Department with their
Oh,
processes to be a
oh,
police officer. Um,
oh. So you were a police officer for a while.
uh, Federal law enforcement, I never really got out on the streets actively on like a local department. I was more
Uh,
federal law enforcement,
oh, okay. Yeah.
legitimately.
That's wonderful. And also you talk about maintain your membership with NAWLEE. What is that?
I since that's an outdated PowerPoint from earlier this year, so I have to
Okay.
update it. NALI was a acronym that says the National Association of Women Law Enforcement
Okay.
Executives.
Okay.
But even in the law enforcement and military field, I get scrutinized and judged for being a victim of sexual assault, rape, or domestic violence,
Uh-huh.
or just being an abuse survivor in general. I think they don't really understand what PTSD is, and or abuse to that magnitude, that they don't want to admit that it happens in either those professions, law
Mm,
enforcement or the military.
mm,
And I got heavily scrutinized and even refused to be hired in the state of Washington or back in federal law enforcement,
mm,
like earlier this year, in January,
mm,
because they know that I'm somebody who's not going to tolerate that type of abuse in my department. When I was on active duty in law enforcement, most in particularly and the military, that they chose to willingly discriminate and not hire me just for being a victim of sexual assault and domestic violence, or having the capacity to pull up my background checks and seeing that I've reported it every single time to
mm.
try to get myself help or somebody else help. And
Yeah.
I've permanently at this moment retired from both law enforcement and the military after 10 years of service because of having that other humans put that label over my head to choose not to hire me because of something that I couldn't even control, that wasn't my fault.
Are there any groups either on Facebook or some other social or even on Clubhouse that people talk about this subject? Like people like help group.
I don't think there's many that exist. That's one
Mm,
thing I want to try to create,
mm. Yeah.
invent.
Yeah, that would be good. Facebook is pretty good at forming groups, forming. Yeah, yeah.
I like Clubhouse and Discord
Mhm,
because those things, and TikTok, yeah, you could post a 15-second video to do this, but are you really interacting with those people?
mm,
And that's why, I when I met TK at the Beverly Center in Los Angeles area, which is how he introduced me to Clubhouse. In fact, I knew about Clubhouse like a week prior because of Jay Park and Jay Min, but you know, doing my own thing. Once I hit my 30 days, I want to be able to form groups
Mm,
to help with sexual abuse in the military and law enforcement type things of people in Clubhouse, so that we have an active Discord or vocalized setting to where we can get together as a group of females or males or humans and
mm,
just talk about these subjects and the transitioning process, or even just their experiences to share that, to kind of give people a free way to have free psychotherapy and like just be around peer-to-peer support. I
mm.
heavily advocate peer-to-peer support anything, and I think that's something I'm going to event in the next couple of months
Yeah.
on those apps.
Yeah. So now you're very resilient and you're very tough and you're very smart. And out of this whole military experience, do you have any like anything is good out of being a soldier for you? Like two or three things you can say after being a soldier.
Mental toughness. The military taught me mental toughness, and um, there's a really good quote that I had written down earlier that
Mm,
was something that I know that I had learned within the military. Um, I had wrote it down. It says, "You're going to be telling a different story soon, one of healing, success, health, abundance, prosperity, love, happiness, peace, and great joy. You're going to be stronger, wiser, and full of life, sharing all your blessings and passing along the light you're receiving." And a lot of that interconnectedness was taught in the military, not to give up. Definitely, I think even just fighting with your own demons in your head every day. And I think a lot of people struggling with mental health can do that. You know, some days we just have days where we don't want to get out of bed or we don't want to live life. But, you know, we just have that mental resiliency and toughness to just say one more day, one more day, one more day. And, you know, eventually life gets better.
mm, that's very profound. Wonderful. Now, ideally, you also ideally, what kind of a career you want to pursue right now?
I want to work with Jay Park in his music label eventually, you know, to
So tell us, who is Jay Park?
Jay Park is a Korean American artist out of Seattle. I met him back in 2016 at his concert, and we don't personally connect as well as we wanted to. I kind of forgot about him for about 6 years up until this year. But, you know, he's a Korean American musician who focuses a lot on creating positivity and mental health and always upbeat. And he does a lot of things with people with his labels AOMG and Higher Music. AOMG, or Above Ordinary Music Group, is based in Korea, but Higher Music is also based in Korea, but they have international artists like Charlie XCX and stuff that help produce music with them. And he produces a lot of artists out of Los Angeles. So I'm hoping by being here in the state of California and working toward that field later on down the road, me and him can kind of collaborate together in unison to help support mental health advocacy and positivity, and that, you know, we all bleed the same color at the end of the day, every single human being, and that equality and just positivity and unconditional love. And that's a lot of things that he fosters, even though he goes through struggles of his own.
Oh, I see. Is Jay Park an American rapper or is a Korean?
He's a
Uh,
lot of things. He was born in Seattle, Washington. He's
oh, okay.
34 years old. He's a
Yeah, I
tourist,
see him. I see him
and
in Wikipedia now.
he does
Yeah.
a lot of different things, and
Wow,
um,
awesome. Yeah.
runs his own companies. So
Oh, wow.
he used to
Wow.
be a part of a Korean pop band, but they wouldn't let him use his cell phone, and he got mad. So he got kicked out of Korea for like making some comments about Korea back in his like childhood days that they saw
Oh,
on MySpace, and it was
yeah.
a really big scandal. And so he had to learn from that, and he came back to the U.S., back to
Yeah.
Seattle with his mom, with his family, and
Yeah.
then ended up going back years later, starting his own companies in the musical scene,
Oh,
Korean rap and hip hop to be specific, and now
can
it's
we
just flourishing.
can we play a little
Yeah,
bit of his music?
go ahead.
Yeah. I'll be punished, I'm sure. I'll be punished by YouTube. Okay, so let me go into us
But he
and
saved me from taking my own life
Wow.
back then just by being nice to me at his concert, and I
Yeah.
was in my uniform, and so
I can't believe he's 34 years old.
he
I see him on your Instagram. He looks like, like 16.
he's short too. Anyway, he's a really great guy.
Okay, here we go. So we'll just listen to a little bit. I don't even know this track. 2020 last year.
혼자 있어도 난 슬프지 않아 그대와의 추억이 있으니 하지만 깊은 허전함은 추억이 채울 수 없는 걸 언젠간 없이도 살아갈 수 있을 거야 차가운 그대 이별의 말에 할 말은 눈물뿐이라서 바라볼 수 없던 나의 그대 하루하루 지나가면 익숙해지.
Sorry, I have to stop.
Yeah.
He's breaking my heart.
But like he's been through a lot of
So-
struggles on his own that
Yeah.
he started those companies from nothing, just
Wow.
like hope and mental perseverance and backlash from his own country that
Mm.
signed a 3,000 person petition for him to commit suicide. Like
Oh no.
he's been through some struggles, and he uses that like I do
Mm.
to positively affect the community and help
Yeah.
people with the struggles that they've been through. That's why I
Yeah.
love him so much.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. So I was asking you, what would you like to pursue?
Him, not just joking.
Like,
No, acting and modeling and
Oh, yeah.
making music and
yeah.
being a
Okay.
spokesperson for everything I've been through to help the
Yeah.
collective.
That's great. So we are at our
Want to do rapid fire?
yeah, let's do rapid fire.
Yay!
All right, rapid fire is hopefully short question and short answer from you, and is light question, nothing too serious. Okay. All right, the easy one. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Yeah. Okay. Which social media do you use the most?
TikTok.
Yeah, check her TikToks. Yeah, and if you know how to say Chinese, right? So say what are you eating tonight?
你 I forgot how to say night.
哦，今天晚上，
你吃饭吗? Like 你吃饭？你吃
今
饭吗？
天晚上，今天
Yeah,
晚上，
今天晚上你吃饭了 something like that.
right. 你今天晚上吃什么？
Yeah,
你今天晚上吃什么？
对。
In Chinese, right? When you see Chinese people, the first thing they say, 你吃饭了没有?
Yeah,
And that's like, how are you? You know?
Oh.
That just shows like eating is so important, right? Instead of saying, how are you? Yeah. 你吃饭了没有? Well, it's none of your business.
我喜欢你，我真的们我很高兴。
我很高兴
I'm
见到
happy.
你。对，我很高兴见到你。Yeah, very good. Awesome. So now, if you had a chance to have dinner with 3 person, live or dead, which 3 people you would choose?
My father, he died at 19 years old, so I wanted to have a conversation with him. Jay Park, and I'd say Angelina Jolie.
Wow, sexy Angelina Jolie. Yeah. Which book do you read recently that you really like?
Book. I do a lot of stuff with books for I love my law enforcement books. Go ahead.
Yeah. Which book?
I don't have a specific book.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. You can say
I
Bible.
read too many books. My own book. I read my own book sometimes just to figure out what I need to update and like
Yeah.
what people are reading it. I don't really
Right.
know the impact of the book I made yet. No one's really ever told me the impact of that book.
Yeah.
I think one day I'll figure it out. But I like reading my own book because I need
Yeah.
to edit it again. You know, it's due for
Right.
an update.
How many pages is that one?
Like 150, 109.
150? That's nice. That's a nice size. Yeah. I wanted to read it. Now, you have been traveling many countries. How many countries outside the United States you have been visiting or living?
Germany, Mexico, Korea, and that's it.
Mm, very good. And you also speak Spanish.
Oh, and Japan. But I've
Japan. Yeah.
just the airport.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
living fundamentally, I think it was Mexico, Germany, and Korea.
Yeah. What turns you on in terms of meeting people you want to do things with? Not necessarily sexual, okay? Turn on like
Good part.
just just like
Kidding.
people want to people you respect. Like what are the qualities, maybe 2 or 3, that makes you want to associate with someone?
Empathy, which is the ability to connect with someone on a heart-to-heart level. Kindness makes the world go around, and respect for themselves and others.
Very nice. Beautiful.
Being able to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Do you have 2 favorite films, like movies, all-time movies you like?
Movies, not so much. I kind of watched like a lot of Korean dramas or
Korean dramas.
and
Wow.
like that's
Yeah.
in like fantasy type of
Is
movies.
that how you learn how to speak
So well,
Korean?
yes.
That's awesome. Another friend
I'm
of mine
really
also.
good at learning any language. Any
Yeah.
single language you teach me, like even Old Norse or
Yeah.
fantasy fiction language from like World of Warcraft and League of Legends, like I can speak it.
Wow. Wow.
Baladash Melanore, you know?
Yeah, if I say this to you, okay, you're actually already Nong chave la ba. Can you
Longcha
say
de
that?
lava.
Yeah, that's a Shanghai dialect. Have you eaten?
I cannot speak anything but Mandarin.
Shanghai, you see, 你吃饭了没有?
Yeah,
Mandarin. And
that
then
I
Shanghai dialect,
understand.
Shanghai is 弄吃饭了吧?
Gong Xi Fa Cai.
弄吃饭了吧? It's
Get
very
rich quick.
different. It's a different way of pronouncing. Like the you know the throw, it goes more deeper.
Like more guttural, yeah.
Yeah, 弄吃饭了吧?
Like you're throwing up.
Yeah. Okay. So one question. Sometimes when you go to a Chinese restaurant, right, they ask you, you can choose a dish with either chicken, beef, or vegetable. What are you?
Beef.
Yeah, me either. What kind of a music genre you like the most?
Korean.
Korean music.
It's such a beautiful language.
Yeah, that's great. So if
I
you
felt like I was a Korean in like a past life or like a samurai or something, because like
yeah
the Asian cultures and languages, particularly Korean, is just to me is so exotic and mystifying and beautiful all at the same time. Like I understand it. Like I have a soul to soul connection with like Korea somehow, because including my kid being half, you know, that just like beautifies it a lot more being a non-traditional, you know, American Hispanic Nordic Viking woman.
Yeah. Wow. So well, I play the viola violin, right? So so what instrument do you play? If you don't play, which instrument you want to learn?
Ironically, I used to play guitar, flute, and piano when in elementary school and middle school. So we had to take band class, and for some reason I picked the flute. I don't know if it's like World War, like Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
And the trumpet. In the military, I had to play the trumpet for Funerals, bugling. Yeah.
So you must be good. Otherwise, your trumpet sound is very obvious. If you make mistakes at playing trumpet, you can fiddle around, play the violin in the band. You can fake, but trumpet you
Yeah, the
cannot
trumpet
fake.
and the flute. You can. I used to play the ocarina too, from like Legend
Oh,
of Zelda, the little like potato, like
oh,
sweet
oh,
potato, like thing, and
yeah,
you just
yeah, yeah, with a hole on it, right? Yeah,
yeah, with the hole in it for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
If I
you're
would,
making me embarrass myself.
if I take you now to a happy hour, what drink would you order?
Oh man, I used to order like AMFs, Adios Mother Effers. It's like a blue Long Island iced tea. That used to be my go-to alcoholic drink.
Oh yeah,
Maybe like tequila or
yeah,
like whiskey or a shot of something. I don't drink
yeah.
too much
No,
anymore.
that's good. That's good. Yeah. I
Soju,
I went
soju,
to
I'm on soju.
that's good. I went to the wedding, right? Like all you can drink. I think I said, "Oh, that looks good. It's red."
How many
Someone
shots
else.
did you have?
I didn't do shots. I don't know
Good.
how to do, but I probably had like four different drinks, and one is really good. It's called tequila sunrise.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah, it's very pretty, right? Not only is
It's
it pretty,
beautiful. It's like
and
orange and like red.
yeah, 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 and they put a cherry on it, and
Yes.
and it did not make me feel
It's very light and
drunk. Yeah,
fruity.
it was light.
It doesn't have that much alcohol in it, but the
Yeah,
tequila.
yeah. But I think for people have mental illness, like I suffer from depression too, it's probably a good idea not to drink too much.
In
Or
moderation, maybe
yeah,
like one or two. And
yeah,
that's from a law enforcement perspective too. Don't drink
yeah.
and drive. Don't drink and do anything.
Right,
But
right.
like definitely someone else who struggles with mental health,
Yeah.
definitely stay away from drinking too much.
Hmm.
Don't let yourself get too drunk with something. And that's with any vice.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. So last question: coffee or tea?
Coffee, ice, black, no sugar.
Awesome. You have a beautiful smile. So, do you have anything you want to shout out
J
before
Part,
we close?
AMG Heart Music. I'm just joking.
Yay, J
You
Park!
know,
Uh,
to the collective in general, like I appreciate Miss Chang for giving me this opportunity today, and I love you all. I fundamentally love every human being. Like I wouldn't risk my life for 12 years, 11 years in professions that could have killed me every single day, whether people want to dictate how long I spent in those professions. At the end of the day, I still put my life on the line for people who really don't want to help me when I need the help the most. A lot of them, be grateful to the people that service the country, because without us, and I know a lot of people get mad, without us, you wouldn't have the freedom that you have. And it hurts my heart to the core when I have to see people make fun of anybody who has a mental illness or somebody homeless on the street, because that very person could be you. You could be rich today and then homeless on the street tomorrow. We all are human. As a human race, we all bleed the same color. And that's just a message that I preach, because kindness is free. Kindness goes a long way. I might have had $5 on me yesterday, and I saw this homeless girl sleeping with no shoes, probably having mental health issues, just chilling there laying. And I used the last $5 that I had to buy her some bread and buy her some water and say, here, and some chocolates. Like, I know you're having a bad day and you're in this situation. I've been there too. But here's some food. I didn't have to do that. I don't have to sit here and be off duty and intervene in an accident where somebody could hurt their life. But as a warrior to this country, and a female one at that, if I see situations like that, I'm morally obligated to continue, protecting the country, even if I'm off duty. It never goes away. So be grateful for the people that give their lives and risk their lives every day, and stop scrutinizing them, because it could very well be you. And I love you all, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for connecting with me and giving me opportunity to learn how you go through all these traumatizing situation. And yeah,
And
this is
still
the
be
area.
here. It's
Yeah,
weird.
this whole area is not something I have friends, go through this. So thank you for sharing. And I wanted to just tell people here, just conclude that I do this one-to-one talk conversation every week. I've been doing it since uh, March 27, 2020, the lockdown, since the lockdown of COVID. Yeah, because I need to see my friends. So it branches out now to clubhouse people I meet. Yeah, so it's really wonderful. Yeah, and
Go
then
clubhouse.
yeah, clubhouse, and then my film, my Young Gun Diary, is going to be shown in Awareness Film Festival in Los Angeles. I'm going to fly to Los Angeles next week, spend 10 days there to attend the festival. And our film is going to be shown on October 27th. It's a Wednesday at 7:45. So please check it out. And I'm going to put the link in after we talk, even in this description. So if some of you are in Los Angeles, and please come. And yeah, and thank you so much.
I'll
So
be there.
yeah, thank you. All right, so until next time, and everybody be safe and be good to yourself and be merry.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, bye bye. Thank you for watching, our audience. Thank you so much. Let me
Thank
say
you.
goodbye